In this episode of the Effective Ecommerce Podcast, we're going to be talking how to launch a new product using Kickstarter. So I just launched a new product using Kickstarter. I did a lot of research leading up to this and tried to figure out what is the best way to launch a product using Kickstarter. And I came up with a lot of different information. So I'm going to go over all the information I came up with, along with the process that I used to raise a little over $16,500. And I know that's not insane. I know a lot of people out there talk about, I raised $300,000 using Kickstarter. Well, something interesting, I did mine in 30 days. I did 30 days worth of work to launch to make $16,500 on Kickstarter. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think obviously if I would have spent more time, I could have done a better job. Also, my product isn't one of those $300,000 products. We'll talk about the whole process here in just a second. So the real thing I wanted to try to do was figure out what is the 80-20 of launching a product using Kickstarter. And if you don't know what the 80-20 it is, it's basically what's the 20% of things I can do that will give me 80% of the results. Think about when you're studying for a test. Usually, back in the days when you were studying for a test in school, you could study for a long time, but ultimately what it was you could study for, let's say, 5 hours to get a B on the test, but it would take something like 25 hours to get an A on the test. So if you don't mind getting an 80% on your test, you could easily do that in 5 hours. But if you wanted to get that 100% on your test, you're going to have to study for 25 hours. So in conclusion, a lot of the effort you put into life, you can get similar results, or you can get 4/5 of the results doing about 20% of the work. Now, this isn't always true, obviously, but I wanted to test this with the launch of my Kickstarter. So I wanted to see what is the minimum I need to do to get decent results, and I think I found it. So let's talk about what I personally did. I took a two-pronged approach. First off, what I did was I gathered emails, and I did that using Instagram. So I had my own personal Instagram account and an Instagram account for my company. And I did use a certain system to follow other people, like their photos, comment on their photos, try to gain as many followers as possible. And it was an automated system. I don't want to talk too much about this because I'm not really supposed to be doing it. But email me, travis@effectiveecommerce.com if you're interested in more information about that. Anyways, I used Instagram and an automated system. And in my bio, it would say, enter for a chance to win a free box of Performance Nut Butter. And what would happen is people would click on that link, give me their email, and that's where the magic started. So most people stop at this point. Most people collect emails and, maybe they give out that prize that they guaranteed, but that's it. That's all they do. And maybe and then some people take it a step further and they have an email funnel. They'll send out an email saying, hey, our product launched. What I did was I sent every single person a personalized email. And I told them, hey, thank you so much for your interest in Performance Nut Butter. I just wanted to let you know, I just wanted to let you know a little bit about the product. And then I'd ask them a question. I'd say, what do you like to do for fun? And the reason I picked this is it allowed me to do some research into my market. It allowed me to do some demographic research. That's a mouthful, apparently. Some demographic research, try to figure out what people that are interested in my product are also interested in. It also allowed me to start a conversation, which is very important. So the next email I'd follow up with and say, hey, thank you so much. And I'd try to connect with them in some way, shape, or form. And then I would say, by the way, I have this launch group. It's a Facebook group called the Performance Nut Butter Launch Group on Facebook. If you enter that, if you join that, you'll have a better chance of winning a free box of Performance Nut Butter. Now, keep in mind, I did give away boxes or jars, actually, of Performance Nut Butter at the time. And what I did is really I picked the people that seemed the most interested in my product, that seemed like they were willing to share it, that were going to share it on Instagram and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. I also used that Facebook group. I'd keep them updated. I'd ask them questions. I'd say, hey guys, here's a bunch of logos. What logo do you think is the best? And I'd let them pick out what the best Performance Nut Butter logo should be. Here's some packaging. What do you like about the packaging? What do you not like? And I got some really good feedback, and they were part of shaping this. So it really was not just my product, it was their product as well. So I brought them along for the journey. And what was cool about having a Facebook group versus just an email list was I would post something and multiple people would comment, and people can see that other people are commenting and it gets them excited and then they want to comment. Where if it's just an email, it's just a one-to-one conversation, it seems very impersonal. It seems almost fake. It seems like I'm some big person up on my castle and I'm just saying, hey, here's an email. What do you think about this product? Where a group creates this community type dynamic, which I think is much more helpful and much more important for launching a product. So they felt like they were involved. They felt like they were part of my company. So that was a big part of what I did. I also did a whole drip campaign. So I did something where it's like 2 weeks until the launch, share this video for an extra chance to win a jar. 1 week from launch, share this video. And I did a lot of videos, and it was very, very much like videos I do on my YouTube channel, the Effective Ecommerce YouTube channel. I'd just turn on a camera, I'd start talking, and I did a little bit of planning. I tried to figure out a little bit of what I was going to say, but it wasn't perfect. And I asked people to share the videos, and I know videos on Facebook do fairly well, so that's why I picked videos. Also, it didn't look like an advertisement, which helps. But ultimately, I had this community that was really excited. So what happened is when I launched my product, when I launched the Kickstarter, I launched it at 6 a.m. PST time, and my girlfriend was next to me, and so she wanted to be the first one to buy. So as soon as I hit the launch button, she went to the computer and tried to buy it. She was the 5th person to buy it. There was 4, I think either the 5th or the 6th. There was 4 or 5 people that were able to buy it before she did, because they were that excited. They must have been sitting there clicking refresh. They could not wait to buy my product. Even though it was a Kickstarter, they weren't going to receive the product for a few months. They were still that excited about it. So that's what I'm trying to communicate here is when you have a community of people, they get each other hyped up and they get really excited. I hit my goal of $10,000 in just 3 days. So I raised $10,000 on Kickstarter in just 3 days, and I know it was because of my community. So that's the first prong of my 2-prong approach I took to launch my product. The second one I did was sending out jars, and remember my final product it comes in boxes, in pouches, and ultimately in boxes. But I did jars at the beginning because it's much cheaper to do. Well, I can do a smaller minimum order quantity of jars. So I bought about 300 jars and sent them out to influencers, bloggers, Instagram personalities, etc. Now, that's not all I did. Once again, as if you can tell by now, I don't do things usually just like every other person, just the whole normal way. What I did that was a little bit different is I went to iTunes and I searched up different types of podcasts that were related to the niche of performance nut butter, related to things that people that like performance nut butter would also be interested in. So that's CrossFit, that's lifting, triathlons, anything that's performance-based, we'll call it, mud running, all that kind of fun stuff. So I looked up those people and I invited them to be guests on my own personal podcast. It's called How to Do Your 20s. And what happened is we had an hour-long conversation about my guest. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about my product. We had an hour-long conversation where I interviewed them and tried to share their message with my audience. Now, at the end of that interview, I mentioned to them, I'm launching this performance nut butter company. I want to get your feedback. What do you think about this product? Now, they had different opinions, and I love their opinions because these are the people that I really care about, and I want them to love my product. So the opinions were very important, but what the real thing was I asked them, can I send you a free jar of performance nut butter? And of course, 9 out of 10 people, probably 95 out of 100 people said yes to this because it's a free thing. I'm obviously very excited about it. Why are they going to say no? So what happened next was a good percentage, I'd say 60 to 70% of them, maybe even a little bit more, maybe up to 75% of the people that I sent a free jar to shared it with their audience in one way or another. So this allowed me to bypass the cold email. So I didn't just send people a cold email saying, hey, here's my product, can you share it? I developed a relationship with them and they were happy to share it because they were part of this process. Once again, they were part of the design because I took their words of wisdom into account. If they said, hey, you know what, I really don't think it should have this in it, I would consider it. Now, people said certain things to me that I didn't agree with, so I didn't always take everything that people said 100%, but I definitely thought about everything that everyone said. So anytime someone had some feedback for me, I would think about it, but I didn't always take it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So anyways, those are the two major prongs that I did. A third one, I did a road trip, and I went gym to gym, and I went in person, and I handed out free jars and spoons and got people to try it and got feedback, whatever. I don't think that did that much. I don't think that helped nearly as much as all the other stuff I did. Like I said, I raised $10,000 in the first 3 days. And then I only raised about $6,500 the rest of the 27 days, plus all the time after the Kickstarter. So I really think the community building and the influencers were the biggest things I did. I know that one person, Dominic D'Agostino alone, probably generated me $1,000 in revenue. So that is it for this podcast. I hope you guys found this helpful. I do have a checklist for helping you launch your product using Kickstarter in my e-commerce success pack. Go to effectiveecommerce.com. You'll find the success pack there. Just search around. It's real easy to find. And on top of that, if you go to iTunes or if you have an iPhone, you can do it in the podcast app. Leave a 5-star review for this podcast. Even if you don't listen on iTunes, even if you're a Stitcher person like me, you can go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, and I'll enter you for a chance to win a free one-on-one consulting session with me. So when you leave a 5-star review, it helps me out. It helps let me know that people are actually listening to this podcast. And on top of that, you'll get a chance to win a free one-on-one consulting session. So that's a win-win. Hopefully you go do that. It's very helpful. I also have some e-commerce courses. You can go to effectiveecommerce.com. This is an audio course. This whole podcast is a giant audio course, but there's some things that I can't really explain in this audio course. There's things that I need to explain via screen recordings. So if you want to check out the e-commerce courses I have, go to effectiveecommerce.com. I'm also going to be coming out with a straight up e-commerce class, which will be a 5-week class where we take people, probably limit it to 10 people, and we're going to do it together. We're going to come together weekly for Skype calls. And it's going to be people that just have an idea. We're going to take them from an idea all the way to a finished e-commerce store. So with all that being said, I hope this episode was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely leave that 5-star review and check out effectiveecommerce.com to get your free success pack. Thank you.